What's up, Internet? You're tuning in episode 52 of the Steam Deck podcast, Flipscreen Games' weekly gaming podcast, all about Valve's portable PC powerhouse, the Steam Deck. I'm your host, Peter Messi, joined as always by my very good friends and co-hosts, Mr. Steven Radford.
Hello, hello.
And Mr. Max Wright.
Ahoy, ahoy.
We're back, boys.
Happy
Reunited.
1 year.
Yeah, happy 1 year.
I can't believe it. We've done 52 of these things. It genuinely feels like yesterday that we started this podcast.
Yeah.
Have we not missed a single episode? Sorry, have we hit every week?
I'll tell you
we
what,
missed
Max.
1 week. We missed
Exactly
1 week, and
1 week.
it was when Pete was in the studio. But you know what? We'll forget about that. It's been one year.
I am low-key disappointed in myself for that one because like we had not missed a single week since we launched Flipscreen, and I was like, all right, and it's like, of course, we miss it right as we're approaching a milestone episode.
Yeah.
I was like, oh dang, whatever though. We're here, episode 52, one beautiful year of the Steam Deck podcast, and for today's show, we got a good one. We're going to talk about a little bit of news up front because there are leaked images coming from WindowsReport.com for Lenovo's latest Steam Deck competitor, which is called the Legion Go. So we're going to talk a little bit about that leak and you know whether or not this device stacks up to some of the other competition that the Steam Deck has seen. And then we've got some great questions from y'all in the question block, and we're going to close things out with a celebratory game and going to launch a podcast within the podcast. And we're going to do episode 1 of the Steve Check podcast, where Steve is going to be quizzed on 15 questions about the Steam Deck and the Steam Deck podcast. And we're going to see how he does. And Max, since you and I are the co-hosts for this podcast within a podcast, I think we'll have to come up with a line, right? Like how many questions wrong can Steve get before he hasn't won? You know, because I want to see him take a trophy home for this. You know, I want to give him his flowers, but he's going to have to compete, you know?
I'm okay with that. I'll think of I'm okay with this.
You start cooking on that.
I think I should be allowed to have 14 wrong. And then if I get any one of them correct, then it's fine, you see?
Don't you dare talk smack about your intellect. That's my job, Steve. Come out here and take my jobs.
This is why you lose. You're not even competing against anybody, just yourself, and you're already like, I give up. Like, come on,
fight for yourself, man. I'm in your corner. I'm backing you.
This is tailor made for you to finally get your W and for you to get your trophy here, Steve. So I'm ready to see you compete. The finest mind in the Steam Deck community is ready to throw down.
Finest mind.
Yeah.
I'm going to do my best, but, you know, after the Jeopardy week, and I thought I was going to do really well at that, those questions were savage. If they're all like that, then I don't stand any chance, but we'll see.
Don't worry, Steve. 10 of them are my questions, so you're going to breeze through those. Then you're going to get to Pete's ones where, you know, he actually wants to challenge you.
I threw some curveballs at you, but I think you're going to do all right. But I'm looking forward to getting into that. But before we jump into that, let's kick things off with the news this week, because we got a set of leaked images from Windows Report. This report comes from Vlad Turicianu.
I think it's Turicianu or
Turicianu.
Yeah, Turicianu is good to me.
Vlad?
Someone really needs to do a supercut of Pete butchering people's names. It's going to stay funny. It's like a weekly occurrence.
Here's the thing, though. All right? You want to throw shade. Why don't you two try introducing the news, and you can mess up some people's names?
Heck, you know, I went out of my way on last week's episode to ask a Hungarian person how to pronounce a Hungarian name.
I'm so sorry.
I specifically did it, you know?
I'm so sorry that I don't have a legion of international translators who can tell me how to pronounce every person's last name. All right? I'm doing my best.
What's the point of the community? What's the point of bringing together all of these, you know, like-minded fans and individuals who have sat there week on week for 52 weeks listening to us talk about the Steam Deck?
Right.
If you can't just ask one of them a simple question.
Somebody tell me how to say Vlad's last name here, okay?
Turicianu. Yeah.
All right, we'll go with that for now. Anyway, so over at Windows Report, Vlad had a write-up as well as some leaked images of this device, and a pretty significant breakdown of a lot of the details of at least the casing of the hardware, right? Like we don't exactly know all of the details in terms of like what's under the hood, but we do have a pretty good idea of what the functionality of the hardware is in terms of, the case itself, right? And it's pretty interesting. It has a couple pretty unique features that I think, I don't know. It's tough to say whether some of this stuff is, going to be the kind of thing that is like really a huge difference maker, or if it is just kind of more of you know, a gimmick and trying to ape what's come from some of the other people in the space. But it definitely caught my attention, and that was kind of the focus of Vlad's article, was breaking down what the things are that this thing has in its arsenal that set it apart from, who he defined as the big players in the space, right? So in the article, he said, we've had at least 3 players in the handheld PC space: Valve Steam Deck, Asus's ROG Ally, and Ioneo's top-of-the-line consoles. They all go for the same market. They're similar to some extent, but have some not so easy to dismiss drawbacks. Lenovo's Legion Go addresses some of those drawbacks, at least from what we can tell right now. So let's get into like, let's look at the device and talk about the functionality that it's got. Because I think the thing that immediately sticks out, right, is that it has detachable, like Joy-Con style controllers.
They're really cool.
Do you think so? I think they look goofy as all hell. With like, the right one has got a trackpad, which is great, but then it's got some button on the side, which looks like it's gonna
The side buttons I'm
dig
confused
into
by
like a grip, and like I don't understand
you
why.
have
Each
to
of
use
them-
it like this.
Each of
or
them
what?
has a side button on they have the standard shoulder buttons, and then they also have side shoulder buttons as well.
Yeah, but the one on the left doesn't seem to have the button doesn't seem to go down as far, and then there's also the additional button. If you have a look at the pictures,
Yeah,
the
there's
one on
like
the right.
Which button are you talking about? Just because there's a couple different
It
things.
looks
Right?
like it's the bumper button that goes all the way wrapped around on the right hand side,
But
and then
they're
there's
two
an
different
additional
buttons as
button on
well.
yeah, but then there's an additional button there as well.
Yeah.
Whereas on the left Joy-Con, I guess, it's only the shoulder button doesn't go all the way around, and then you're missing that secondary button on the left. My
You're
guess
right.
is,
It doesn't have that secondary button.
yeah, it's
Okay,
really
that's
weird.
only on the right. Yeah, so
Mhm.
that's interesting. So basically, like again, if you're an audio listener, what we're looking at is it has your standard LR buttons. Then on the right Joy-Con, it has a third button on the side. But then when you pull around to the back, it has 2 different sets of back buttons. On the left-hand side, it looks like they're kind of like the on the on the Steam Deck, where like
Yeah.
they're next to each other, like horizontally, and then on the other one they're vertical.
Yeah, which is weird because it looks like they're named M1, M2, M3, M4, M5, and M6.
No, these are the ones at the on the other side are Y1 and Y2.
Okay,
So
so
you've
on the
got
right
M1, M2,
Joy-Con,
M3,
M1,
M4.
M2, M3, M4, and then it's Y3 and
One.
Y4. It's very
No,
strange.
Y1, Y2.
Okay.
And then there's no, and then you can by the fact that the M1 is on the side, you know that the Y1's the only 2 buttons. This is an absolute clusterfuck. I really liked the device. I like the look of the device, but as soon as you started pointing these things out, I'm like, what a clusterfuck of controls.
I think my biggest concern with it, right, is Joy-Con's fine. But my aging launch Switch, even after like 1 or 2 years, the Joy-Cons came a little bit loose. They felt a little
Yeah.
bit wobbly. They weren't quite as sturdy as they were.
Well,
But I can just go to anywhere and buy a new set of those. Am I going to be able to do that with the
Yeah.
Lenovo Legion Go? Probably not.
Totally depends on how successful this thing is, right?
Yeah, I also don't think that these are necessarily. So the issue with the Switch ones is that when you pull them in, there's a little clip that's made of plastic, and when you pull it down and slide them in, if you accidentally put the Joy-Con grip on the wrong way, or even if you just drop the Switch,
Yeah, I had
it can
someone
shear
do that
plastic.
literally the first week I had
Yeah.
my Joy-Con.
I did it to my own one, but you shear off that corner of plastic so the fit's not as tight anymore, and that's why they wobble. This doesn't seem to have a clip. This appears to be all magnets, and you literally just slot it in, and then the magnets grip onto it.
Okay, fair enough.
Which
I mean,
I
I
think is
don't.
more. However, it also does mean that it's dependent on the contacts being fine, because if those
Yeah.
contacts get damaged, then you have a problem because it doesn't just sort of like dock in
Yeah.
flush, you know.
But
It's
that's the kind of thing where it's like, if the device is successful, right? If there's a homebrew community, I'm sure that those are things you'll be able to figure out how to fix or how to, maintain, if the device has any level of success, right?
Yeah.
But
yeah,
a thing about Lenovo is like, I know they don't have the best track record for customer service in terms of like devices having errors and then like them actually, fixing them or keeping up with it. So like the idea that you're going to get a service that's as good as, Steam Deck's warranty and like how you can send it in to get refurbished if there is a problem. Um, I mean, that's, it's all speculation, right? Like, obviously, you can't count that against them before we know what the reality of the situation is. But it 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 is something that I think is worth pointing out in terms of like, yeah, this is cool functionality, but like, how much does that increase cost? How much does that make it harder to maintain? If
yeah.
this is a niche device that has less of an install base than the Steam Deck, is that something that Lenovo is gonna go out of their way to support when you run into problems? I don't know. That is a good question.
Yeah, and I honestly, I think it kind of misses the point with the Switch, which is, it comes with the dock. I can plug it straight into my
Yeah.
TV, and that's why I want these to detach. We obviously don't know if this is going to come with a dock, but it's not seen in any pictures. We don't know if that's going to be a thing. Is that going to be the use case here, or is this just so, I'm at the airport and I want to be able to chuck this in front of me, on the plane or something, and take the controllers off so I can play with a little bit more comfort. And granted, that's a good use case, but I don't know if it's a
And I
good
mean,
enough use case.
Got a great
I
looking
think
kickstand.
yeah, and it does come with like a nice kickstand, like the OLED Switch, right? Where it's like a full back panel one. And like, I don't know, like those are things where like I agree with you that they're not like game changing style features, but I do think they make a big difference because something that we've talked about on this show, right, is that like you have really small hands, Steve, and like that's something that like impacts the way that you play and like how much you've had issues with like pain in your hands and your wrists and things like that. And like the Steam Deck is big and heavy and unwieldy. If there's anything you're going to criticize it for, it's probably that, right? And granted, it's really ergonomic. I think it's really comfortable to hold. But I think for people with like small hands or that have
Mm.
wrist issues or something like that, I could see it being a problem. And I could see the kickstand and Joy-Con style configuration being something that really does benefit people. And like this is anecdotal, but like I talked about it on the Flip Screen Games podcast last week that I met from Playcrafting, the folks that set up the event Play NYC that I went to. I was speaking with one of the founders, Christy Pride, and she uses a ROG Ally instead of a Steam Deck specifically because it's easier for her to hold and it's more comfortable in her hands. So it's like that it's not the kind of thing that I think is like necessarily a make or break feature, but I could see it being something that like does make a difference for somebody like you if it is otherwise analogous experience, right? Like if this is a really good dedicated device, it is a viable Steam Deck competitor, and then also it has the benefit of having a more flexible use case for play. That could appeal to certain people for sure.
I would love to compare our hands, Steve. I'd really love to have a
I
hand
mean,
off.
this is a normal size mug, like,
Yeah.
it's not really as massive, but
Oh. This is a tiny hands. Um, I sorry, are you actually going to talk there, Steve? Sorry, I don't know why I've continued.
no,
It's
it's
like, I wanted
fine.
to talk more about Steve's little hands,
No,
and
no,
I
no.
forgot what I was gonna
I
say.
did just want to point out that we've actually missed something.
What's that?
Well, not only is there all of these buttons, there's also a scroll wheel built
Yes.
into the right
Yeah, I was
Joy-Con,
driving
right?
towards there, and then you guys started making fun of the buttons. I was like,
Sorry.
"Did you? We didn't even. No, it's good." But it's like we didn't even talk about the fucking wheel on this thing. It has
So
a
it feels
scroll
like
wheel.
the idea is that the right one is almost like a mouse, and that
Yeah.
you can point with that, scroll with that, because it's Windows. I don't know if we mentioned this is running Windows 11,
Yes.
so we know that, as we've said before, Windows isn't the best with controllers. It isn't the best for sort of running like a console style OS. But to have features like the touchpads that we love on the Steam Deck so much, and a scroll wheel that helps you scroll through things without having to do that, or scroll over to a thing, click
Yeah.
it, and drag it and hold it down. Like that is a genuinely good feature, and I think it's in a good place because your finger will sort of go under there and do that. I don't think it'll have any use in games other than maybe like, I mean, even like some games you can just like swap through your inventory, just scroll,
Yeah,
swap, and
like I
like
could
that
see
would
you
be
using
great.
radial menus and stuff that way.
Yeah, I think
But
that's a great
the
feature.
other thing that's worth pointing out there, I think, Max, is, and this is pulling from the article again from Vlad, right? He said we can't confirm any info yet, but because the Joy-Cons are removable, we can safely assume that the screen will also be touch sensitive.
Oh,
I
I
don't
mean, that
know.
was like a kind of a given, wasn't it? I feel like that would be a missed opportunity if it wasn't. How are you going to do keyboard
Yeah.
input without it?
Maybe, but I think the point being that Windows 11 specifically has a ton of like good touch functionality. So like that could be another thing to your point, Max, of that, navigating Windows 11 in, handheld PC mode is not ideal, but like if you are able to, move through it with a touchscreen, you
Mhm.
might find that to be a pretty easy way to navigate it as well. So I could see that being, again, not necessarily an advantage, but something that sets it apart, right? And that does give it potentially an edge over at least the other Windows-based devices, if not the Steam Deck itself.
Yeah.
I think that edge very much depends on pricing, and I think this is going to be a very expensive device. I don't think this is
I
going to
do
come
too.
anywhere near like an ROG Ally. If it's got those new Phoenix processors in there, which were announced back in June
Yeah.
with the latest Zen 4 stuff, those are going to be
Mhm.
pricey. They're not going to be cheap chips. They're looking at putting those into um, like the Razer Edge notebooks and things that are designed for gaming.
Mhm.
And it looks like they've kind of taken those off the shelf parts that were designed for a laptop and put it into here. And you can see that the knock-on effect of that is that this has got a real meaty air cooling system, where to the point where
Yeah.
it like juts out at the back from where your hands would rest, to have just an
Yeah.
absolute ginormous vent all the way across
Huge
with
fan.
vents at the top. And it
Huge.
looks like there's even probably some air intake behind the kickstand. So like
Yeah.
there's a lot in there, and it looks like a chunky device. I'd imagine this thing is
Yeah.
not going to be very light to hold.
No, but if you compare it to this, if you think of the size of the controllers, I still think this is gonna be smaller than the Steam Deck, just because I can imagine holding that controller and it not being quite as boom, and the fact that it's also, these parts come off, so there's parts that connect and there's parts that, it's not like one unit like the Steam Deck. Like, I think this is it's gonna be like a well-made device, but I think that's gonna come at cost, like you say.
Yeah.
I think that people should just stop putting lights around control sticks because it just makes them look like cheap Amazon knockoffs.
Yeah.
I quite
Just
like
can't
them. I
stand it.
like them on like the Ioneo devices. I don't think this is a very handsome device in the same way like the Ioneo devices are, but I quite
Yeah.
like them. I'm
It's
usually not one
fine.
for it, and
Yeah.
I'd probably turn it off. I've got some like Razer mouse with goofy RGBs in it, and
I
I
have
hate
that
it.
too.
I absolutely hate it. Yeah, yeah. See, look, everyone's got it. I don't know what it
Like
is with gamers obsessed
keyboard.
with fucking RGBs.
I
I
like
just find it so
lights,
dumb.
okay? Leave me alone. They promised me neon in the future, Steve. That's why. All he got was disease
It just makes it go faster.
and millennial gray. I want some freaking neon lights.
Hmm.
Yeah, if it does make it go faster, fair enough. I think it would be cool if these lights did like hook up to like some kind of boost mode in the Lenovo Legion software, or I would imagine it's probably going to be running Adrenaline.
What
Um,
One other thing I did want to call out while we're talking about like the build quality and everything, it does allegedly have a bigger screen too. Again, grain of salt because the way that Vlad said this is supposedly bigger screen of 8 inches. So that's another nice thing is like having a little bit more screen real estate is like no one's ever
yeah,
going to complain about that.
we don't
What's
know
the
what
Steam Deck?
aspect
7? Is this
ratio
7?
is. Yeah, the 7. So the Steam Deck's is 7 diagonal, but it's 1280 by 800. It's that 16 by 10 aspect ratio.
Yeah.
I would imagine this is probably going to be 16 by 9 in the same way that the ROG Ally is 16 by 9.
I don't know. It does look taller than the Steam. The Switch. What's the Switch? This is 16 by 9.
16:9, yeah.
This
Yeah.
looks taller. This looks a little bit taller than the Switch.
It does, but it's also like we're looking at a picture out of context, so it's like I don't
Yeah,
have like
that's
a hand
true.
next to it or something. But like I feel like I agree with you, but it could just be the photos.
I'm gonna get I'm gonna get a model of the Switch. I'm gonna hope that the buttons are a similar size. I'm gonna compare them. I don't think the buttons are the
I
same
don't think
size.
these buttons are a similar size. I think these buttons are larger than a
They
Switch's
actually do
buttons.
look massive.
The only other unique hardware thing I wanted to call out is like because there's like a couple other just like standard things that you can look at. Like there's it looks like multiple micro SD slots at the top.
Oh, that's
Apparently,
what I
it's
was
one
calling.
micro SD card slot, and multiple headphone jacks, and
Multiple
buttons.
headphone
What do
jacks.
you
Oh no,
think those
two
four?
USB-C ports.
I
One
think
at
they're
the bottom
fans
and
at
one
the
on the
top.
top.
So what it says in the article is that there are two USB-C ports, one at the bottom and one at the top. I really
Yep.
like that. That's a nice feature.
I like that a lot.
Power button, headphone jack, plus and minus buttons for adjusting the volume, and a micro SD slot. But I'm
Which
looking
I think is
at
next
it.
to the USB-C.
Right. What are these for?
Oh, fans. That's surely that's an
Yeah,
outlet.
that's your fans.
That's an
Yeah,
exhaust.
that's your fans again.
Top exhaust. If you look at the top of your Steam Deck, you'll see
Yeah,
they've
you
got
got
a top
top
exhaust
and they've got the back ones.
exhaust.
It's the same as the
I'm
ROG
aware.
Ally.
No. No, I'm aware. I hear you there, but like looking at this, it's two different kinds of shapes. You see what I'm saying?
Let me zoom in
Right?
closer.
So look at it's the photo with the kickstand out,
Yeah.
right?
I can see the big 4 holes. They all look like the same shape. Maybe they're just like big exhausts. I don't think anything goes in.
They could be. I guess the reason I'm confused by that is there are two sets of exhaust on the
they're
top.
tiny. I reckon they're like little ones.
And they look the same as the one on the back, though.
Oh,
so it's
I
just
don't
interesting
actually
to
think
me.
they're exhausts. I think that's just a pattern in the plastic. And I think the
You
4
think?
holes in the middle, they are because if you open it up in a new window and zoom in, it looks like solid plastic under there in the same way that quite a lot of it on the back then is solid plastic. And I
it's
think
possible.
those 4 holes are the fan exhaust, and then on the right hand side you've got one USB-C port and a micro USB on there.
Yeah. I don't know. It looks like a port to me or something, but you're probably right.
It's a shame that there's no Oculink port, that we can't have like an external GPU on here, which I would have liked. I kind of want that to become a standard on these devices moving forwards. I'm still a little bit obsessed with the jog wheel. I can't deny. I used to love it back in the day on like a Sony J7 phone, having those jog wheels to scroll through the menus. They were great.
Yeah.
So what's up?
Every device should do it.
You gonna get one of these, bud?
No, definitely not. If I'm getting a device, it's not going to be this thing. I think eventually the quality of these attachment controller things is going to feel wonky. It's going to feel off, and I think this thing's going to be so heavy and so expensive. I cannot see this being a cheap device.
I feel like it's going to be really expensive. Like in the article, he made a comment about it being something that's like powerful enough to replace your main PC. And like, if that's their goal, like it's going to have to come with a pretty hefty price tag, but
which makes sense. I mean, that's what I would expect these chips to be going into, some kind of gaming laptop that can replace your main desktop PC, which is what's weird about it not having an Oculink port to be able to take external GPUs, and maybe they'll accept external GPUs through the USB-C port. It might be like a Thunderbolt port. So it's
that could be
possible
why there's
that
two,
they could,
right? So you can have it plugged in and have that plugged into, power.
Like you can have a docked at the top if you want to stand it up to use as the thing, and then at the bottom for when you're charging and playing. Because like I prefer having the cable coming out the bottom than the top.
I do
looking
too,
at the top, I've worked out what these 4 ports are. It's a built-in multi-tap, so you can have 4 PS2 controllers in and chow down
that's
on
good.
some classic retro split-screen gaming.
Love that. Love that for us. These devices are so interesting to me because I wonder if there will ever be a point where one comes out that I actually think is as attractive as the Steam Deck. Because, like,
I don't think the Steam Deck's an attractive device. I think it's but
I don't mean
ugly, but
I don't mean like how it looks. Like I mean like
an attractive
functionality.
package. Yeah.
Because like I think the biggest thing about these that interest me is like would be really cool to have one for Game Pass, right? Like would love to have a Game Pass machine, cool. But like aside
Even
from
then,
that,
you look at PC Game Pass, it's not great. I went out of my way to install Windows on the Steam Deck, and PC Game Pass ain't the one, I can tell you.
So it's like, with that in mind, I just don't know what the advantage is unless it is just that it's a lot more powerful and maybe you have more functionality, more control in the controller. Like that's all well and good, but I don't know. Like, are people really going to shell out that much more for something that has these little tiny wins here and there and doesn't
If
come
those
with as
little
good
tiny
a
wins with their
warranty,
own
doesn't come.
if those little tiny wins are their own sticking point, you know, if they're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I really like the Steam Deck, but I'd like to be able to stand it up and not have to carry around a thing and have a controller," like, this does it, right? If
Yeah.
you're a guy who likes the things your Switch does, and you'd wanna be able to do that with a more powerful system with, you know, more games that you can get on Steam, your Steam library, cool, this does it for you. I do think that this is another device that makes me just more excited for what's coming next. You know, this one doesn't particularly excite me. I think it's cool. I think it's got some nice features, but give it 2 or 3 years, they're all going to be doing this and they're all going to be doing that. And
I
Steam
think
Deck's going to
that's
be doing
exactly
this.
where I'm at, Max. It's like these all feel like reactions to the Steam Deck,
Yeah.
and it feels like it's these companies going, "Oh, the Steam Deck was successful. Let's look at the parts bin and put it together." The only
Yep.
one that hasn't felt like that to me has been the ROG Ally. Now, that's aside from the Ioneers and the GPDs of the world who were doing this before Steam came to town. But I do feel like all of these ones from the likes of Lenovo. I think we saw something from Dell recently. Like all of those ones kind of feel like, oh, these are reactionary devices and they're just trying to get something out. Whereas I think in 2 or 3 years, we'll have the next chips in AMD's lineup. They probably won't be exclusive to the Steam Deck at that point, and we'll be able to see what Microsoft has got in store in terms of a launcher for the Windows side of things. Hopefully, we'll have Steam OS as a viable option that people can select to install on these devices. I feel like 2 or 3 years down the line is when I think probably 2025 is when I expect a Steam Deck 2, and I kind of feel like that's when we'll probably start seeing some devices that can compete. There's always something, like Pete said, where there's always something that kind of puts me off of these devices. You know,
Yep.
like the ROG Ally is great, but there's like, it's running Windows and that's a bit clunky. And then there was the whole thing where it's like melting SD cards, which wasn't
Yeah.
great. And
Yeah.
then there's this one, which is probably going to be price. The Ioneo, it's price again. But if there's it's the trade-off, right? If you've got the money and you really like this form factor and you really like these devices and you don't mind Windows, then this is probably a viable option. But I think for me, nothing yet. Same as you, Pete, has made me
I
go, I'm gonna chuck away my Steam Deck and switch over to one of these things.
This episode, I think, is the first time where I've like cemented this thought, because every time we've talked about one of these competitors, it's always been like, oh, it's so exciting that like the handheld PC market is emerging, and like I hope to see more people invest and like innovate and everything. I wonder if we're not looking at an iPad situation with this thing where the Steam Deck is the one that's good,
Mm,
and then everybody else is going to make their own options, and like there will be, you know, um, the odd person that is like, yeah, I have a Amazon tablet instead because it was $70
yeah.
and I use it for an e-reader and that's all I needed, and like that's
Have you
good
seen
enough.
that Samsung Ultra one though that everyone's been reviewing lately?
Oh, the
15
new
inch
one that just
screen
came
with
out.
five
Yeah.
cameras on the back. It's ridiculous, but I
Buck
kind of
wild.
love how ridiculous it is.
And then I think that's the other side, right? Is these insane like high end things that are just like, does this really speak to anybody that doesn't have just a gross amount of disposable income, right? And like,
Mhm.
no shade if you do, that's cool. Buy your shiny toy, but like, does that have mass market appeal, right? And like, I look at the tablet market, right? And it's like, has anyone really come up? Like, there are like Samsung has tablets that are fine, right? Like, there are other options, but like, none of them have the level of ubiquity that the iPad does, right? Even non Apple people get iPads because they're sick. And
Yeah.
I wonder if we will get to a point in a couple of years where there is a Steam Deck 2 or another wave or whatever, and other people are actually putting out things that are interesting and creating a serious conversation in terms of which one you should get? Or is it going to be a thing where Valve is constantly the one innovating and driving the conversation, and you have a bunch of pretenders who are just trying to like stake their claim on the market for whatever it's worth?
I think that the more of these that keep coming out, the more that we sort of talk about and the more they get reviewed, I know I'm definitely waiting until after I get the Switch, whatever the Switch 2 is going to be, before I get another Steam Deck replacement, because the Steam Deck is still just like, yeah, that's fine. I have no issues with with that, and I don't think I want anything else. And you know, they keep bringing things out, and I'm like, I appreciate what that's doing, not enough for me to part with any money. So
Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
Like, this
waiting
might be a great
patiently.
device, but is it a good enough device for me to add it to my arsenal or to replace my Steam Deck with it? I guess I just don't see that right now, and none of these have come out with a feature set or, a jump in power or battery or memory or any of the things that we talk about wanting, to the point where I'm like, yeah, like maybe that's worth it, because at the end of the day, like you can't overstate how much you get from the Steam Deck just from it being a product that Valve supports. And like, I don't see that with any of these alternatives either.
But like I said, it's getting exciting. Things are starting to heat up. Competition's starting to fly. New ideas are coming out. We're eventually going to see the ultimate version of one of these in a few years' time, or the market's going to shift in a direction where they go, why weren't we always doing this? Like when the Switch came out, people were like, why weren't the controllers always detachable? Why weren't they always part of a controller? Why weren't they blah blah blah? All these things the Switch did, that these things are now sort of like aping in a way, even though there were devices similar to this before the Switch, and
they just weren't now.
Always,
I think the technology's caught up with the vision for it,
Yeah. Also, just it was hard before to say, oh, you should buy a GDP win for these reasons. People are like, well, why would I do that? Whereas the Switch came out and just put it very plainly and simply, this is what it does and this is how it works, and put games
Zelda's
on it.
Buy it.
Yeah, exactly. And people were like, oh, I get this now. Like, I understand what I'm doing here. Yeah. Big up Lenovo. Let's see how it goes.
I hope it works out. I really do. I would love for one of these things to come out and actually hit and have us be like, I don't know. And then it comes out and it's like, oh, actually this thing slaps and it's a good price and people like it and it's a viable alternative. I would love for that to be the case, because I think it just speaks to the fact that this is a product, and like not specifically the Steam Deck, right? The handheld PC is something that has legs. And I would love to see other people get out there and come up with ideas that inspire Valve. And like we get that kind of design conversation back and forth. Be really cool.
Quick, before we move on, I just realized there's a button on it that's like the Legion logo on the top left, and then there's settings on the top right. So we're sort of getting like a Steam Deck type thing, which makes me think there's going to be a built-in.
Yeah, there's going to be some horrible software. And I don't know that it's going to be any good. Like, that's always my concern with the software that these OEMs put on their devices too. It's like, I usually want a clean install of Windows, and I don't want any of the crap that comes with it. Whereas on SteamOS, I'm like, oh, actually, this is really nicely integrated into the Steam client, and I don't have anything else running.
Yeah.
And it's not like a tiny little thing down in the system tray on Windows that I have to open up, or I have a unique button to do it. And I know they all do it, right? There's the IS Space on the Ioneer devices. There's the ROG client on the ROG Ally. Like, everyone has one.
Yeah.
I'm not looking forward to when Samsung releases their games console and I accidentally hit the fucking Bixby button in the middle of a game. And Bixby, go away! I don't need you right now, Bixby.
Oh my god!
Go away!
I hate that son of a bitch.
Maybe I'll tell you how to do it. Like AI scan the screen and it'll give you like a walkthrough of that exact moment that you're looking for.
Yeah, well, we found a clip of what you're struggling with.
Yeah.
Actually, that'd be all right. That'd be like the PlayStation cards, but good and useful.
Yeah, the PlayStation cards, but it's actually automated, so there are actually
it's like,
some for games. Yeah.
They're like, Max, we found a YouTube video of somebody doing the thing that you're struggling with. Here it is.
That'd make me snap that shit in half if it was like, looks like you're having a hard time. Do you want some help? I'd snap that in directly.
Do you need help, little baby?
Yeah, hate that.
Excellent. Well, Godspeed to the folks over at Lenovo. Let's see if the Legion Go ends up amounting to anything. I'd love to see another one of these things make its grand debut and actually stick the landing. So we've got some celebratory 1-year anniversary Steam Deck content for you in just a second. But before that, let me remind you that this episode of the Steam Deck podcast is brought to you by our Patreon producers for the month of August. They are, of course, Arnold J. Rimmer, Christopher Valenz, Earth Visitor, Gabriel Hasselmeyer, a.k.a. Sobi, Snackago, Ty the Dude, and Wakahula. Thank you all so much for your support over on patreon.com/flipscreengames. Y'all are the realest of the real, and we could not have done 52 episodes of this fine show without you. Thank you all for tuning in and for showing your support. And huge thank you to all the new folks that came in with the show. When we launched the show, it was absolutely 100%, I'll say 75% passion project, 25% so that we wouldn't have to monopolize the Flip Screen Games podcast with us talking about Steam.
Yeah, that's really what it was. Yeah.
But I think I'm speaking for Steve here, but this show has exceeded every one of our expectations, and it's been a blast to do a year in, and I'm looking forward to continuing the ride with all of you. And thank you for all the new listeners, all the new supporters who have come through because of the Steam Deck.
Shouts out to you guys.
Yeah, and you, Max. Thank you for coming and joining the show. It's been fun.
That's all right.
Definitely couldn't do the quiz that I'm nervous for in the back half of the show without you.
No, yeah. You just have entirely Pete questions, and that'd be awful.
You wouldn't got a single one
It
right.
would be awful. Because he'd probably cheat and he'd just make all the answers false.
Yeah,
That's what I have no clue.
That's right. I cheat. That's why I win. Not because you give up before the competition even starts.
Yeah.
All right.
Cheater.
Yeah. You know what? Look at the scoreboard. All right. Speaks for itself.
All I know is Pete rhymes with cheat, so it's,
Oh, that's nice.
The evidence is clear.
You know what else?
Really nice.
You know what else it rhymes with, Steve, is
It's not winner, no.
3-peat. That's what it rhymes with.
3-peat.
Hashtag 3-peat, everybody. Let's do it. Okay, so we're gonna jump into here's the thing. The segment as it stands is called the question block. Back on episode 50, we said, what if we renamed it? What if, question block? That's a Nintendo thing. That's where that came from. What if we got a more Steam-centric one here on the Steam Deck podcast? And one Jack from over on the Discord wrote in and said, some ideas I had for renaming the question block for the Steam Deck podcast. Steam Docket, Half Thoughts 2, Aperture Info Desk.
I really like Steam Docket personally. I think
I like Steam Docket a lot.
It
I like that
rolls
too.
off, yeah.
I completely forgot that we'd done this. I can't remember if this was just me grasping at something for the end of the episode. But
No, someone wrote in and was like, why is it called the question block? I can't remember who it was. Someone asked, like, why is it called the question block? That's a Nintendo named thing.
Yeah.
And we were like, oh, we just kind of pulled that over from our other podcast. But if anyone has any ideas for what to rename it for, then we'll talk about them on episode 52. And
thank you.
I remember doing a lot of calls to action that episode. I can't remember what. I just remember stopping and going, everyone, tell us your thoughts.
I need you to write in and do some stuff and do some things and do stuff. I don't know.
I just then forgot all about it. So Jack, solid. Have a.
They're all really good.
They're all good. Yeah. Literally, the only reason I like Steam Docket the best is because I think it flows the best. Like, let's jump into the Steam Docket, right? Like, not because Half Thoughts I like, but it's better on paper than it is off the tongue.
Plus, if we're gonna do it, it should have been Half Thoughts 3, so we can actually finally get a third one.
Yeah.
Half Thoughts Alex.
Yeah. We could be here for hours.
It's the same thing with Info Desk, right? Where it's like, I can't be like, let's jump into the Aperture. It's too long, right? Jump into the Info Desk, that works, but it's not, and then you're losing the. So we like Steam Docket. We're gonna go with that one.
Yeah,
but
let's
I like
not rip the guys to shreds for helping us out.
Yeah, thank you so much, buddy. And now you did it. You named it. Now it lives in infamy, and you're part of the show's history forever, Jack. So look at that. Look what you did today. So let's jump into the Steam Docket for the first time. This question is one that I've been saving. This one comes from Left Eye Lazy from the Discord, and he wrote in about 2 months ago with this question, and I thought I'd save it for our anniversary episode. So he wrote in and said, not a real question. It is one, so you're off to a bad start, but I like the question anyway, so I saved it. The year anniversary of the Steam Deck podcast is coming in 2 months. I would love a full breakdown of how you guys feel about it after a year, / how has it affected the way you play and purchase games, / how the handheld space in gaming looks 1 year later. Lot to unpack there, but I think it's a great question for the 1 year anniversary of the show.
Perfect timing for it.
Yeah, I think we've kind of covered how the handheld space in gaming looks 1 year later with the first half of this episode.
Yeah, true.
We got a load of clones. We got a load of Steam Deck clones, and they all run Windows, and none of them have really met our expectations. But I think a lot has changed for me personally since I got the Steam Deck in how I play games and how I purchase games. I was never a PC gamer, and the Steam Deck has definitely made me buy games on Steam, I would imagine it has 100% had the effect that Valve wanted, in that I now buy
Yeah.
games from them, and they make more money from me than they ever have because I buy games day one from them and not just wait for a sale. Um, and it's really kind of become my first destination for games. I'll see if it can run there first before I opt to go buy it somewhere else. It's where I opted to play The Last of Us Part 1. That turned out to be a mistake, but I did anyway. It's where I opted to play Diablo 4, which has been running great. And it's where I plan on playing Baldur's Gate 3. And those are like three big games that released this year, and I chose to play them on the Steam Deck rather than on another device because it's a device I can take anywhere with me. When I go away for a weekend, I can take it with me and I can carry on playing the games I want to play. And I can just use it anywhere in my house as well, which is a big thing for me, being able to just like move away from the living room when someone else is using the TV and just like, escape to my bedroom or whatever and just play games and not have to worry about monopolizing the TV and feeling guilty about it. That's a big thing for me. Not to mention the fact that a lot of these games that I play are great TV games or great podcast games. And I know game developers probably cringe hearing about a game that they've funneled years of their life into, and I just play it and I'm not really caring about it.
Composers, voice act, they definitely are cringing when they hear you say that. The gameplay designers are like, oh yeah, it's all right.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh yeah, Diablo's great, but I'm gonna have Parks and Rec on in the background while I grind away.
Yeah, the opposite of that is that that Jerry Seinfeld and Larry David, when they were making Seinfeld, were like, people are gonna play so much Vampire Survivors to this. Like,
yeah,
I'm really looking forward to
it. Clearly the goal.
Yeah,
I'll go on. Go ahead, Max. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that as someone who was a PC gamer beforehand, and also a big sort of fan of the Switch, what this has done for me is I no longer feel tethered to my PC for like big games, and then I'm like, okay, I'll just play indies on the Switch. I can now sort of feel like I can continue my big games as I'm out and about. I'm always someone who is out and about, or I'll play at work, or I'll sort of be staying at my girlfriend's house and things like that. And I feel like there are some games that I'm just like, oh, I'd like to play that, but I just know that I won't have that much time in a week to sit in front of my computer and play them. There are times that I do, but not always. And really, the Steam Deck for me has just been like an extension of my Switch, where like I'm playing a game either on my PC or on the Switch, and I can either way, I can just take it with me and continue playing it. And I think that has been great. I think I still buy games in the same way. Like if it's a smaller game, like an indie game, I will generally pick it up on the Switch anyway if it runs the same, just because that's a nicer form factor for that for me personally, and the screen's nicer and things like that. But yeah, it's just meant that I've been able to um, play something like Resident Evil 4, for example, or Resident Evil Village, and not be like, okay, I'm going out now, so I can't play that. It's like, oh no, I can just keep playing this. Also, I there's been a lot of times in my life where I'm like, oh, I really want to play that, but like, where will I play that? Things like Wii U games that aren't on the Switch, or just like, oh, I really want to revisit some Game Boy Advance games, or I really want to play for all the Metroid games. And it's like, okay, I need to dart between the Switch and emulation, or the 3DS and things like that. And to have one device that allows me to do it all, um, with the sort of power of emulation, and even the sort of non-official games and fan games and stuff like that. To have one place where I can play them all has been great.
Well, I think that's a really big thing as well for me. It's like I play so many games that I never would have had access to, like these smaller indie titles that never come to any other device. I play tons of horror games with friends, and like we couldn't play those on anything else because they don't exist. No one, the developer probably has like a few hundred people download the game, maybe a few thousand. Like I'm constantly downloading stuff from itch. And I love that. I love being able to kind of play these experiences that I never would have had access to without having a PC. And the fact I can do it handheld, or I can plug it into my TV if I want to, it's great. I love it.
Yeah, I would echo a lot of what the two of you have said there. I think when it comes to like purchasing games, I think the biggest change is um the consideration now, right? Like I was talking in the Discord this week, and I mentioned it on the show last week about Baldur's Gate, where like I am wrapping up a couple games. I'm about to move into a space where I'll have an opening again. And I've been kind of like torn of like, well, I want to play Baldur's Gate 3. Do I get it on Steam Deck? Do I get it on PlayStation? Do I wait to do that? Whatever. And I think the biggest thing for me with the Steam Deck is how it has fit in as like a fourth pillar in my overall gaming habits, right? Like when we initially talked about this device, I think the thing that I was most skeptical about was like the who is this for, right? Like who does the Steam Deck serve specifically? And if you're a PC gamer, like why would you need this other device? And if you're not a PC gamer, is it going to be enough to get you in that ecosystem, whatever, right? And for me, ever since I moved into the house I'm in now and my PC is in my office, I just don't want to play PC games like I used to. Like I'm at my desk all day working. I don't want to spend my evenings, isolated down here at my desk, hunched over a mouse and keyboard anymore. And I have a laptop that I could game on, but it's the same problem, right? Like I don't want to be hunched over that display. It's just not a satisfying experience for me. And the Steam Deck like perfectly bridges that gap, right? Where any of the, like PC centric stuff that I've wanted to play since I got Steam Deck, that's generally where I go to play it, right? And if it doesn't run there, then maybe I'll wait and get it on console, whatever. But like that's led to a lot of games that I don't think I would have made time for becoming something that got a lot of rotation for me. Like something like Roller Drome from Team 7 that Steve and I both played last year. That game was only on PlayStation, and I don't usually play indies that way. Like it's not like I'll never play an indie on my Xbox or my PlayStation, but generally when I'm on the big 4K TV, I want to be playing something that's AAA, right? That's like taking advantage of that display. And when I'm playing something indie, that often, not always, but often feels more at home on my Switch or my Steam Deck. And what's so great about the Steam Deck is for a game like Roller Drome, might eventually come to Switch, but like by the time it does, would I have time to play it? Right? Like, is it a game that the conversation has moved on from, or maybe it got kind of middling reviews, so I don't even try it. Like things like
Well,
that.
even games that do come to Switch, like Day and Date, like Cult of the Lamb, for
Cult of the Lamb.
example.
I played it there because it ran better.
Yeah, exactly. It plays better on the Steam Deck, so why would you not? You can play it at 60 frames per second, at 800p. Looks really great. Why would you choose to play it on the Switch when you've got the Steam Deck? And it's become like my destination for indies because of that.
Absolutely.
One, you usually get them sooner than they come to Switch because most indie devs publish on PC first, but they also just run better because the hardware is more powerful.
And it's been out longer,
might change,
right? Like think about that too, though, right? A lot of these games, like, like they're out and being optimized on Steam, right? Or they came off of early access, and like then they're a solid 1.0 right? Versus like, oh, it's the Switch version's Day and Date, and like it needs a patch, it needs this, it has this problem, whatever, right? Like, and that's few and far between on some of these cases, but like it does make a difference, and it's become that is where I go to play my indie stuff. But I think more than anything, it is definitely like those other experiences that y'all were talking about, where like I love going back and playing retro games, but again, I don't want to sit and play them on my PC. They're perfect on the Steam Deck. There's so many classics that I went back and played again, right? Or I played for the first time since I was a child, and like had a great time with it, and was like, oh my God, like what an incredible device this is to have a native, like with the power of EMU Deck, right? Where like you're playing these games like they're native, right? They run on Steam Deck, and you're not feeling like you're jumping through hoops to get an emulator set up and do all that stuff. You can just click in and save through the save system in the game and have that like very like classic, standard experience that you're looking for. And like getting into fan games, like stuff like Radical Red and Pokemon Blue Kaizo and stuff that I've always wanted to check out, but I just never would take the plunge. It's incredible how at home it is on Steam Deck. So
I'm with you there.
We've got a couple more questions from the Steam docket, but we're going to save them for next week because we got to get into our game within a game, our show within a show, the Steve Check Podcast, episode 1. Max, let's roll that intro. Weird how that intro is the same music as the other show.
we decided to cut down on costs. It's only been a year, you know. It's not
Brand
like it's not
synergy.
like yeah. We could recognize it. So
Does that mean I don't get a prize? Is that?
I'm
Oh
sorry,
no
Steve. I'm sorry, Steve.
no.
This is for the hosts to talk. Your
Yeah.
contestant.
You're the.
Quiet.
We haven't introduced
Oh,
you yet. We haven't
okay.
introduced you
We
yet.
haven't pulled the curtain back. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Right.
You ready, Max?
I'm gonna. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna go in.
Go.
Welcome to episode 1 of the Steve Check podcast, the show all about the Steam Deck podcast. Steam Deck podcast resident portable PC powerhouse professor Stephen Radford. Hello, Steve.
Hello.
To celebrate a whole year of the show, this show within a show is a chance for Pete and I to take a step back for a moment while also making it entirely about us and let the Linux PC and Linux PC and Steam Set. I've over-engineered this intro. The Linux PC and Steam Set do all the work as we test his knowledge about the Steam Deck and the show. Steve, how do you feel? Are you excited? Are you hyped?
I'm really excited. You know, I heard there's a really great grand prize of $1 million, and I can't wait. I'm really excited.
Stop asking about the prize. Let's get straight into the quiz. We have 15 questions for you. If you get a right answer, you get a thumbs up. If you get a wrong answer, you get a thumbs down. I'm going to say if 10 answers correct, you are Steam Deck podcast verified.
10 answers. 10 out of 15.
10 out of 15. You're Steam
That's
Deck
how you
podcast
get Deck verified. Okay.
That's 67% I need to get. That's a high
I'm glad you're good at percentages.
That is not high. Have you taken a test?
70% is usually
for a long time.
That's less than a standard pass.
This
I'm glad
guy.
you give good percentages.
I
Let's
haven't
go
taken
straight
a test for like 15 years.
What happens when you work for yourself, Steve?
Yeah,
you just crazy.
You end up sitting back, you know, whatever. Anyway, question 1. We open every show with the phrase, a show all about Valve's portable PC powerhouse. But we didn't always. Steve, what was the original opening tagline?
Valve's hot new handheld.
Ding, 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 ding. Question, that is 1 thumbs up.
1 thumb up.
Yeah.
Good start.
We need thumbs up in the doc. I'm going to
go on. Add right thumbs up. Go on. While you do that. Question 2. In the classic Steam Deck podcast episode, The Ultimate Steam Deck, I added the total cost of every game on Steam to the final total of the Ultimate Steam Deck. Now, it was a pretty memorable number. What was the cost of every game on Steam?
Was it 420? Was it 420,000?
Ding, 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 ding. Add a thumbs up. Thumbs yourself up right now. This is maybe my question.
Elon would be proud with that number.
Yeah, he would be. He really would be. Question 3. What is the most played game on the Steam Deck in 2023 so far, according to the Steam Deck store page? Look at his glasses to make sure he's not cheating.
2023 so far.
The most played of 2023 so far.
According to the page, so we don't know in terms of. It's not like Steam. You're doing it based on Steam DB.
I'm doing it based on the Steam Deck store page.
On the Steam Deck store page, that top 100 page that they have.
Vampire Survivors.
Thumbs down.
So
dong, 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 dong.
That's number 2.
Was it Red Dead?
No, it's Hogwarts Legacy, which has always been surprisingly high on the list for some reason.
I expunged that game from my memory for reasons.
Yeah, we don't talk about turf shit on this podcast, sorry.
Then moving swiftly on to question 4. Which hotly anticipated Steam release caused controversy after having its verified status removed after launch earlier this year?
Oh, not T-Lou Part 1. That was a
T-Lou Part 1. I've not written that down, but
thumbs up.
Ding, 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 ding. That is a thumbs up.
That's 3 points.
Question 5. So far you're doing very well. Question 5.
Yeah, I've got 3 thumbs ups.
I love having.
I can't even do 3. I've only got 2 thumbs.
Don't worry, have one.
I got a third one.
Oh no, that's 4. At Tokyo Game Show 2022, Valve had a huge showing for the Steam Deck with demo units running a variety of games. However, one of the games shown off has never been released on Steam and still requires a workaround to play it on the deck.
It doesn't require a workaround anymore. You can just install it. It's Genshin Impact.
Ding, 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 ding. With extra information. This is why you're the. This is why you're the Steam Deck podcast resident portable PC powerhouse professor. This is why you're that person.
Don't need the
community's finest.
You don't need the anime game anti-cheat remover anymore, which I think is what they called it.
Anime game anti-cheat. Was that what it was?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, at least it works. That's good. At least one of my questions was that the research wasn't done properly, but that's good. It doesn't affect the integrity of the quiz. Question 6. There is one accessory that we, all three of us, have agreed would be perfect. Sorry, would perfect the Steam Deck docked experience, and we've mentioned it many times over the course of the show. What is it?
Yeah, it's a Steam Controller 2.
He's exactly as
Nailing it.
written. Ding, ding,
Thumbs
ding,
up,
ding,
ding,
ding.
ding, 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 ding.
You're smashing this.
Killing it, buddy.
Okay, this is where things get a bit tougher for
Yeah,
me.
spicing up a little bit.
Yeah, just slightly.
We've gone from plainish. Are we now on
With
lemon and herb?
This is lemon and herb.
Okay. Okay.
At the Game Awards 2022, Valve gave away Steam Decks to people watching. How many Steam Decks were given away?
Jesus.
Have you redone the maths here, Pete? Or have I?
Yeah, you had a slight typo, and I went and fact checked it.
Cool. Fine.
But you were close. You were close. You were off by just a couple minutes. So
I know
Steve,
Christopher Judge made them do loads more.
Steve, I will give you a hint here. There are 2 acceptable answers.
Mm-hmm.
2 acceptable answers.
That's
it was like 1 per minute, wasn't it? So like it was 1 every minute was the thing.
Yeah,
but I
yeah,
don't know how many
correct.
minutes it was.
So then why don't you? We'll give you the point. I'll say this, Max. I say we give him a bonus point if he can guess the actual number now.
fine.
I think it was like 320 or something like that.
Dong,
No.
dong, dong, dong. No
You think the
bonus
Game
points
Awards
for
were
you.
320 minutes? Come on, buddy. Too long.
I do. It felt that
minutes.
long. Like, I was
170.
tired by the end of it. Okay,
It does
170.
feel forever, doesn't it?
Yeah.
All right, so continuing on this theme, keep this in your head, because now we're question 8. What now defunct website did you need to be watching to have a chance of winning?
Oh, it's not really defunct. It's Steam TV.
It doesn't go anywhere now. You go steam.tv, it takes you straight to the Steam.
It
page
used
now.
to take you to like the CS:GO page.
Yeah, no, they
and
killed
you
that.
could watch people live streaming. Oh, I didn't
Yeah,
know. That's
no.
a shame.
Now it goes straight to the Steam homepage now. Sorry, I just banged.
Oh wait,
no,
no, it just took me to the
it does
CS:GO
do that.
page.
I literally
Yeah.
went on this earlier. Oh, okay. Do you know what? The hyperlink on the Steam terms and conditions now hyperlinks directly to the thing. But if you actually type it in, it does take you to the CS:GO
Yeah,
page.
it usually
Alright,
takes you
maybe not
to
fun.
watch CS:GO and probably soon CS3 or CS2.
Yeah.
Whatever. Is it CS3?
CS
Yeah,
Counter Strike.
they're gonna start showing Baldur's Gate instead. Come on, that's the real most popular.
Yeah. Okay. Question 9. Valve risked legal repercussions last year when it included an interesting library icon in an official promo video. What was the icon?
Was it Ryujinx or is the other one?
Well, I need the name.
Think
What's
about
the
it.
other one called?
What's your final answer?
It's the Switch emulator. It's not-
Right.
It's not
I need
Ryujinx.
the
Which
name.
one is it?
What's it called?
My mind's
on.
blank. I don't know.
It's the most
on,
popular one. You know this.
I know it, but I'd find
with
it if I googled it in a
starts with
second.
a
But I
Y.
don't know. Yuzu. Okay.
Hey, I'll give you that. Ding, ding, dong. I'll give you a middle there,
Half
but
point,
yeah, you
half
get the
point on
point.
that one.
I think you get the full point because he knew it. He just didn't
All right,
remember the
okay.
name, and that's good. He knew the information, just not
He phoned a friend. It's okay.
specifics is what we're for, Pete.
You're right.
Steve does the base, the blanket stuff, and we come in and we pepper it with information.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Of course. That's why the show works.
Question 10. This is a big one. In 52 episodes of the Steam Deck podcast, there has only ever been one guest. Who was it?
One guest, really?
There's only ever been one guest.
Is
on
it
the show.
you? Were you the
It is
guest?
me.
It is
It is me. And I've just clung on for dear life, and I've just not gone away. I was looking for all the episodes, and I was like, "Do we really not have anyone but me on?" And I was like,
No,
oh, "Hang on,
no, I
I'm
don't think we
I'm not
have.
even a part of the show yet." So yeah, me. I'm the only ever guest.
Well, you got your own show out of it, so it's like
Worked out.
show within a
true.
show.
I was like, in my head, I was like, "What show?" But it's obviously the Steve check.
Yeah, this
The
one.
Steve check, obviously.
Currently, can we get a quick Steve check, Steve?
How we doing,
Yeah,
Steve?
good.
How you feeling?
Yeah, good.
I feel like I'm doing all right. I don't know how many thumbs up I've got here, but I've only got one wrong, so I'm pretty happy with that.
You've got 9 out of 10 so far.
9 thumbs.
What was the thumbs down? I can't remember.
You didn't guess Hogwarts Legacy.
Oh
Hogwarts
yeah,
Yeah, you
I
guessed
remember. Yeah.
Vampire Survivors there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is a better
Hog-
game to be fair. You should be playing
Yeah, I
Vampire
agree.
Survivors.
Should have been number
They've
one.
just had a new update, completely new
Rapid.
game engine, and it's got a co-op mode now. So everyone should
Yeah.
go check it out. It's great.
I'm
Big
going to
push
be
for it today.
trying that out on Switch, I think. Oh, it is today, isn't it? Yeah. Big up them. Question 11. This is where let me just change tone. Welcome, guys, to to the Pete questions. Here we go.
Okay. Are we
This
on,
is where we're going to
are
up
we,
the
Max?
ante.
Are we on medium or are we going all the way up to extra hot?
Things are getting a bit spicier now. We're medium. We're sort of towards the hot.
We're at medium. By the end, we will get to spicy hot.
Okay. I only need
don't know. I
one
can't
more
remember
to
what
win. So it's fine. I'm okay.
Oh yeah. Well, no, you need to get Steam Deck verified. There's a difference.
Yeah,
You're not verified yet.
I mean,
You need
I
to
could
get
have been
one
verified
left.
with 0, and then you just change it afterwards. Apparently, that's okay.
You gotta.
Yeah.
No. Okay, so just to be fair, on this show, Steam Deck verified means something. It means that you won the competition.
Okay.
Yeah. You're about to be Proton DB Platinum. Let me tell you.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's good. That means something. That one does
That
mean
means
something.
That's what we call it if you get all 15 right.
Yeah.
I'm gold otherwise.
Question 11. The 250 gigabyte Steam Deck costs $529 in America. How much did this cost in the most recent Steam sale?
Oh, I don't know. It's America.
Do some math.
It's some simple
math.
maths, mate. Some simple
It's
percentages.
math.
$529.
Yeah.
And there was this. What are you doing? I see you typing.
I'm doing 529 times, and I think it was
Times
20. I think it was like. No, it can't
He's trying
be
to
that
figure out the
cheap.
percentage.
It was the same price as the base mod. I think it was 400.
I'm not going to give you that.
I don't think it's.
So-
I think you're too far from the ballpark, but you're real close.
When I did the official, when I did the full, because it was up to 20% off. When I did the full 20% off, it was 425. However, it cost 450. So I think I'm not going to give you that one because
Yeah, that's
it
fair.
was 450.
$50
So,
off is a bit. Yeah.
dong. I'm afraid.
Right.
Why is my thumb so not straight? There we go. Dong.
Yeah, you're not
Oh,
like
don't
actually.
cry, Steve.
It's all right, buddy. You still got a chance.
Okay, here we go. This is Pete question 2. Question 12. The standard length of a Steam Deck warranty is 1 year. How long does the warranty period last in the EU?
It's a minimum of 2 years, but it does depend on the member state. But it's a minimum of 2 years.
Pete, what are you saying on that?
I don't know. I want to give it to him. It's not totally right. Can you think of? How about this, Steve? It's a minimum of 2 years. What's the maximum?
Yeah.
What's
the maximum. I think it's like 5 years, isn't it?
No, I don't know about this.
No. I'm sorry. I was trying to throw you a bone on this one. It's 3 years warranty against manufacturer defects.
Okay.
The minimum of 2 years, but it's up to 3 years if it's specifically a manufacturer's defect.
Not to get political, but not for us.
No, well, we're not the EU, Max. So it's fine,
Difficult, isn't it?
All right.
Oh well.
Last 3. You gotta get one more, Steve. I think there's 2 here that are very, very doable. One of them, pretty tough.
Pete,
this next one,
3.
spicy.
Yeah, this is whatever the extra hot was, the special African sauce they do. Like this is up there.
This is gonna burn your
the
lips.
black bottle. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dabar.
So before the Steam Deck podcast, Pete and Steve, never heard of them, talked about the Steam Deck on the Flip Screen Games podcast for several weeks. Which episode was the first to have a main topic about the Steam Deck?
I swear we had this on Jeopardy. I swear this one was on Jeopardy. Do you want the episode number?
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
I would like the episode number.
Yeah. If you can come up with the title, I'll give it to you. But I think
it's like Steve got a Steam Deck, or we have a Steam Deck was the title, right? Or was it? Are we talking about when we first spoke about it being a thing?
First
It was when the first main topic about the Steam Deck.
Oh, I'm sure it was like we got a Steam Deck or Steve got a Steam Deck. It was one of those. And it must have been like episode 40 around there.
No, he's so close.
Oh, that was close.
I don't know. I feel like maybe we give him a half point on that one. He got the title.
My thumb's up, mate. My thumb's.
We give him the thumb.
Up.
I'll give him the thumb.
Steve,
it was episode 36.
Can you feel my thumb
36.
up?
Okay.
You got the title right.
Steve feels my thumb up.
It was the thumbnail was we got a Steam Deck. Title was Steve got a Steam Deck review and impressions.
Okay.
You
nailed 2 or 3.
Yeah, I gotta give it to you on that one. That's pretty good.
Well done. You were 4 episodes off, 4 weeks off, not even a month.
That was the toughest one too. So I'm
right,
happy
here we go.
to give you.
Steve, it's time to kick back on your Heelys and start gliding down to the finish line here. We've got 2 questions left.
These last two are, I think you can get them to.
I think you can get them too. Which game? Sorry, Pete. Question 4. Which game won Game of the Year at the 2022 Steam Awards?
The Steam Awards.
The Steam Awards.
We did a whole episode about it.
We did.
Game of the Year.
It was. Was it? It wasn't Elden Ring. I don't think it was Elden Ring. Was it Spider-Man?
Is that your final answer?
Dong 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 dong. I'm sorry. I'm not. I don't want to give him. I don't want to give him final answer because I don't want him to.
Was it a no then?
Dong dong dong. It was Elden Ring.
It was Elden Ring.
It was
Elden Ring.
I was like, slam dunk, you got this one, bud.
Oh, Steve, there's a stone in the way. Your Heelys have flipped off your feet, and now you're careering towards the ground.
I feel like I'm playing like a text adventure game with Max. It's like there's a stone in your way, and you've fallen on the wayside.
You've entered the cave of a terrible brew.
You've hit the slip and slide, and you're now careering at great speed towards the finish line. Do you cross over?
The only thing that can save me is by answering the question correctly.
Yeah, you answer the question correctly, and a lasso will stop you. Question 15. We have discussed numerous wannabe Steam Deck killers on the podcast. Name 3, not including Lenovo's Legion Go that we just discussed at the top of this episode.
Oh, the ROG Ally.
1.
Can I have 2 Ioneo devices? The Ioneo Geek.
3 separate. I'll take Ioneo Geek if you want to.
Ioneo Geek, that can count as 1. That's fine.
I mean, GPD Win would be another one.
Have we discussed that on the show, really? Have we really discussed the GPD Win, or has it just come up in...
Oh, yeah, okay. Well, we'll go with the Logitech G Cloud, because we spoke about
that. That's what we were looking for.
It's pathetic, right?
But that's what we were looking for.
We had an entire episode about it.
That was a main
topic.
We
did have an entire episode about it.
That's the
I think it was the first one. That's why, right? It was like the first new one.
I remember, yeah.
And we were like, oh, like, could this be a thing? No.
Okay, was anyone keeping track of the numbers? Because I wasn't. Oh, there we go.
I was.
I got 11. Right?
11.
Yeah, you got 11 points.
Boys, it's time to give Steve a round of applause because he is officially Steam Deck podcast
Steam Deck verified, everybody. Let's go. All right.
Well done, Steve. Congratulations. Steve
Tip of the hat.
Pete, I want to congratulate you on a fantastic year of podcasts. You guys have done a fantastic job, and I'm glad that things are still going well and that you haven't grown tired of my meanness to want to keep having me on to just take over the show at some point and do shit like this.
Well, we need to do an episode of the Steve Check podcast with you in the seat, Max.
Oh, you mean the Max Check podcast?
Yeah, we'll do that. Yeah.
No, I think we still call it the Steve Check podcast.
All right, fine. I look forward to revisiting this for episode 100.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Check in on your Steves, everyone. Check in on your Steves. Just make sure they're okay.
You know? Yeah, give them a check. Give them a check, everybody.
So even Minecraft, Steve, he needs.
Oh yeah,
he needs some love. He needs some love. Respect where it's owed. So thank you guys again for joining us here in another episode of the Steam Deck podcast. Max, thank you for launching episode 1 of the podcast within a podcast, Steve Check podcast. Great work.
Very welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, we did great. So thank you all again for a wonderful first year of the Steam Deck podcast. Here's to another episode or another 52 episodes, another beautiful year playing our Steam Decks. And remember, if you guys want to write in, you want to be a part of the show, you want to hit us up for the question block next week. We've got some leftovers, so you know what? Hit us with some more. Maybe we'll do a nice mailbag episode next week. You can hit us up, flipscreen.games. That's the website where you will find links to all that and much, much more. You want to become a Patreon supporter, get the show early, and a bunch of other perks and goodies. You can go show your support that way, of course. The best way to keep the mics and the lights hot. But if you don't have any money for us, there's a bunch of other stuff you can click on while you're over there where you can find all of the places we are all over the web, all of our wonderful sister shows, and they won't cost you a pretty penny. So go click on some stuff. It helps us out quite a bit and easy for you to do. So go do it in honor of our 1-year birthday, right? It's the least you could give us for our birthday. Go click on something. Anyway, for the crew, I've been Pete. He's been Steve. All the way over there's been Max. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Goodbye.